in the midst of a huge transformation where our peers, communities, and workplaces are all really melding into one. Welcome to Reimagining Company Culture. My name is Christina Giordano, she, her, and hers, and I'm the Senior Partnerships Manager here at AllVoices. Today, I am super excited to welcome our next guest on the interview series, Lois Castillo. She is the Head of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at AllVoices Technologies. Lois, it's so nice to see you. If you want to share a little bit about yourself for our listeners, including your pronouns, and when you were younger, do you remember how exactly you answered the question, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah, of course. Hi, as she said, I'm Lois Castillo, had a DEI over at AllVoices Technology. I am a vet, a mama bear of two little boys. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And what did I want to be? I always get tripped up on this question because I wanted to be so much as a kid. I think what comes to mind is I knew I wanted to get into the advertising. I wanted to be an advertising exec. At like 14, I saw a commercial that really changed my life around that. So I was like, I want to make commercials. I'm about 14. And my mom was like, I'm not paying for you to draw. So you need to figure something else out. But I made it anyway. I did go into the ad industry, and now I'm in ad tech.
Very nice. So it is related. I love asking that question to folks because it's always interesting to see where do we think we would be, 20 years from now as well. Fast forward to today, you're the head of diversity, equity, and inclusion at AllVoices Technologies. And I feel like a lot of folks who are in the space as practitioners, as operators, a lot of the questions that they have shared with me that they get are, how do we measure if we're doing a good job? How do we know if progress is being made? What is your philosophy around measuring diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, knowing that we're not looking to check a box, but what gets measured gets, invested in?
Yeah, it's all about the change of the organization. I think it's really understanding how I measure is really understand where we were at and what we're trying to do around goals. So I think about data. I believe in looking at the numbers. What does our numbers say? They tell a portion of the story, but they don't tell the full story. I think about I measure of what's the impact that I'm having on my employees? How is our retention rate? How is our organization? What's the makeup of our organization? Are people coming together with a shared commonality of behaviors? Is there kindness in the system? Are we creating equal pay? Are we having diversity in all levels of the organization, not just race and ethnicity, but just diversity of thought and how people show up? And are we, as our policies and our structure, innovative around benefits and policies and how we create a warm environment? So for me, it's really measuring the change of the organization. I think people forget about the organizational change and the impact it's having on not only the employees, but our partners when we think about our vendors and our clients and things like that. Are we having a positive impact of change where however you're showing up or wherever you are in your walk of life of your employee cycle basis or any organization is supporting you through that change?
Absolutely. And that's a big question to answer. What is the impact you're having? What is the positive impact? And I think those are really great examples in terms of pay equity, representation across all levels, how people are feeling too. So a multi-pronged kind of answer to a really big question. And in terms of, getting the work done organizationally, a lot of folks have shared that initiatives and goals are under different teams like people or talent. Why is it important that you report directly to the CCO, and how has that impacted kind of your strategy moving forward?
Yeah, I've been in roles and DE&I roles where I've been in the HR, we fancy a name, people and culture or whatever your team is naming them. And I think it's important that you work closely with them. But there is a HR is a structure of the business and the policies. And I think to really have impact for me and to be engaged in the day-to-day experience of what the employees of an organization, especially at AllVoices, are experiencing, I need to be in operations, who runs the operation of the business, who understands the day-to-day experiences, who are as close as you can get to those who are servicing our clients and our vendors, those who are running the projects, to kind of know what the day-to-day experience. Where I think as HR, when I was in that function, you are really creating the policies and the procedures. And while I think I have a really strong working partnership with them. I lie in the operations as a gut check and an accountability partner to what's happening when we think about policies and procedures. I am to the retention. I work with recruiting in those things, but it's different when you're in the department because you become one of those silos. And I think you move, which I think people hate the reality is when you are in those talent engagement functions, you're so removed from the work, the day-to-day work. And DE&I is really about having impact over the whole organization and trying to be as close as you can to the day-to-day experiences. And there's a coaching aspect. I think it's different if there's something happening than if, going to HR and then talking to your DE&I who's in it, kind of know the people. Not that HR doesn't, it's just a different lens. So I think for me, reporting to the CCO, I'm more connected to the people where I want to have impact and change. So if things rarely, oftentimes perception is if it bubbles up to HR, it becomes an HR issue. If I'm in operations and something, I can be closer to, there's a different free flow of information that happens and that I'm closer to the impact or the initiatives I want to happen in the organization. And I think when DE&I sit, from my experience, when DE&I sits in HR, DE&I becomes an HR function. So they're running it. Really, it is DE&I, diversity, equity, inclusion is everyone in the organization from top to bottom's responsibility. And I always say I may be I may have a small direct report team, but I have 100, 1,000 plus people because each and every one of us is accountable and we all have impact on how we're driving the initiatives, how we're engaging with people, how we're creating experiences, how we're being allies and creating allyship and creating diverse teams. So in my role, I feel more connected to the business side of it and the people side.
I believe that diversity, equity, and inclusion should be at the DNA of organizations and processes, and everyone is accountable and have that ownership mentality. I know transparent communication from senior leadership is something that is really important as well. Can you give an example of how Basis Technologies and senior leaders are really transparent in communicating, and how does that manifest at your organization overall?
At Basis, if anyone's in our system, we're very transparent. Our CEO is very, very transparent about his goals. We have a manifesto and a guiding principles that we have as an organization that we utilize that we live by. And it is about, and transparency is one of our key factors. So when it comes to DE&I, I'm very open about where we're at as an organization and where we need to go, and that we're all on a journey, each and every one of us, on inclusion, wherever you walk at, wherever you walk of life. So we send out a quarterly newsletter about what we're doing, our numbers, our recruiting numbers, who our partners are. The CEO, when we have our all hands call, he talks about his, what numbers we are, what our goals are. We posted our goals and our pledges around that. We have guiding principles. So we have 4 guiding principles that we use to guide our work and how we approach DE&I. I'm transparent of where we need more work in. We are really, this year's theme for DE&I is allyship equals action. So I think there's a term we talk about, being transparent, that I can't just say I'm an ally. I have to show up and create action. So we're transparent in our numbers within the organization and how diverse, representation are. We're transparent in how the learnings that we have. The executives meet bi-weekly and have DE&I focus, not only what we're moving, how we're going to move the organization, but trainings and learnings, which goes down to our leadership ops, which goes as infiltrated in that. So we're really transparent on what we're doing, where our goals are, what our metrics are, what numbers we're hitting. And, we celebrate when there's time, but we also hold ourselves accountable when we don't meet our metrics, and we should be pushing ourselves forward. So transparency is at the root of everything of what Basis is, and it's the root of just being able to move the work forward. Because I think if people are living in murky waters or unclear what the mission and the structure and the goal is when it comes to this work, or the investment in it, then they don't really get to see the impact and the change.
Absolutely. And it also, when you're being transparent, builds trust with folks too. When you acknowledge where you are, when you hit goals and you don't hit goals, and where kind of that room for improvement is as well. In terms of other folks who are part of the strategy, I would love to know, what is your take on the unique role of employer resource groups, or ERGs, in your kind of diversity, equity, and inclusion strategy?
Yeah, if anyone knows me, I believe that ERGs, employee resource groups, community groups, business resource groups, there's like multiple names for these affinity groups. They're the heart of an organization, because for me, those who have said yes, they've an employee who said yes, because most of them are employee led, have said yes to the company twice, especially in this virtual hybrid world. You've said, yes, I want to do this job. Now I want to do a side hustle and I want to build to the culture. So we just hosted a ERG summit where we upscaled and brought in thought leaders across to just for more development, because I think people realize so many of employees lean on employee resource groups to help them through their life cycles, through onboarding, through just communing together, through connectivities, through learning. So for me, ERGs are really the culture of an organization, and supporting them in the healthier are the ERGs, and the support and the commitment really gives me a good gauge of how healthy and how impactful my DE&I strategy isn't within the organization. There's an executive sponsor who is an active member that gives coaching and guidance to the leaders. We have, rotating leaders. We have multiple boards who are really coming up from some amazing events to connect and not only to connect employees internally, but we give back our corporate social responsibilities. So we give out into the community, and as you can see, I get giddy. I get really excited, because it's not as ERGs have had to change since we've been since COVID, and we've been working remote, because it's like, hey, stay on another Zoom call on top of your job. And I think people have really needed that. I think if any practitioner of doing this work, the last 2 years have been hard. The last several weeks have been another heightened, just emotional roller coaster of just the harm happening in the world. And it's been continuous. And for me, our ERGs have been a safe hub to just, we do brave spaces. We hold space. We call it our space. We hold space for people to just come and be. You don't have to have the answer. You don't have to be. It's just an open, safe space to just be, because I think so many of us, you don't have that connectivity or that water cooler conversation. And our ERGs have not only created education and fun things, but we've also been able to just be support systems and help with the benefits that we have a really good mental health. Mental health is important to us, but just come and commune, because I think in our industry, the advertising tech industry, it moves so fast, and sometimes you need a space just to pause and be, because life is happening.
Absolutely. Life is happening. I really like what you said in terms of ERG leaders saying yes twice to an organization. I've never heard it put that way before. And I really like that, especially as a former ERG leader myself as well. These past few years, these past few weeks, job related, world related, have been really difficult, and people are feeling more burned out than ever. What tools are you providing to folks to really proactively get ahead of that burnout?
Yeah, so we have, one of our principles, take a breath. So we have a flexible work vacation. We have these things called failure bueller days, to say I woke up with a headache, or I just can't do no meeting. So when I got there, I thought it was Facebook Day. I was like, why are we having, but they're failure bueller days. You just you send a note, so I'm taking an FB day, and you go do something. We give headspace. So we offer that to all of our employees. We really focus on mental health. We're a conscious leadership organization. So we're very cognizant and conscious of where that people are experiencing life. And we want you to be at your best self. So we know you need to take breaks and pauses. And we encourage that, at Basis, after 4 years, you get a sabbatical for 3 weeks that we encourage you to take. We really work to create an environment where mental health is key, because if you're not in the best physical and mental health, you're not able to produce the work that you want to do. So we understand that. So through just our benefits, giving breath and space for those, I operate under, we're all on a journey. Life, like I said, life is happening, and it's happening fast, and there's harm happening. So how at Basis can we support our employees to mitigate the harm as much as we can in our control? And that is to allow them to have the tools to be able to be successful at their job, but to also be able to take a moment when they need to step back and just take them and to breathe and to regroup so they can be successful. So it really is about having a benefit structure that allows for those moments when you need to recharge and that. And the other thing is that we don't shy away from talking about mental health. We have a ERG called Reframe that educates us on the different dynamics of mental health, and that it is real, and we all have ebbs and flows of our emotions and feelings. So it's not some hidden thing we just like, oh, don't say anything. We make it so whenever you're struggling, not even struggling, whenever you just need a moment, we allow you. That's why I think the beauty of Fairler Bueller's Day, you don't have to tell your boss why you're taking off. You don't have to say, hey, I just woke up and I'm not feeling myself. I'm a little sad today, or I'm a little anxious and I just need a moment to just be. That's what the day is for. It's just, I need a moment to take and be, because life is happening to me. And we really work in the operation, which and operationally around transparent. If you're transparent and acknowledging that life is happening, and that that harm has happened in the world, and people need to take a moment, I use this term a lot, is giving people grace to experience life.
Absolutely. Give people grace and create those spaces where people can feel like they can share about their lives in those brave spaces. We are in June 2022. I would love to ask, how is Basis honoring and celebrating Pride this year, recognizing that I'm sure that you're supporting and empowering LGBTQIA plus employees 365 days a year?
Yes, so super excited. Our Basis out. So from our ERG perspective, they are partnering with our interns and our Giving Tree, and they're doing some community work locally and nationally with LGBTQ+A communities to just give back to the community. We're also having a partnership. We have a partnership with PFLAG, and they come in and give us learnings and around just allyship, trans allyship, pronouns, and that type of stuff. So we'll have some of those. We have this thing at Basis called Basis Conversation, which a colleague of mine runs. It's an interview where we bring in thought leaders who come in and share their story and share their stories around that. So we'll have someone, a leader is coming out. It hasn't been selected between two. We're having a panel just bringing in thought leaders in the industry who have, some have transitioned in the workplace, or just their experiences being an ally or a member of the LGBTQ. So there is going to be an event we created Summer Friday. So there's going to be an event every Thursday that is honoring and celebrating our, through Pride. But we also, one of the things that is important to me and the organization is that we just don't celebrate people during that month. We do it throughout the year. So we really partner with different organizations to have an impact externally in the community and supporting those who are, our ally, our partners in Basis, but we also create an environment internally that educate, but also just celebrate the difference and diversity. One of the most important things at Basis is that not only do we embrace diversity, not only do we celebrate diversity, but we really work hard to embrace. So not only are you feeling included, but you belong however you show up.
I love that. That sounds like there's a lot of great programming happening. Lois, is there anything that I didn't ask that you want to share with folks listening, or any key insights?
I think one of the things that for me that has been most impactful is diversity, I think when I want people to think about diversity, equity, inclusion, is that it's such a complex and huge, those words are big, to simply frame it. And that it's not something you can buy off the shelf. It really is, it takes to really move and have impact on your people and change an organization. It's to really understand how the business work, how the organizational work, so you can add on and build and be able to recognize where some things you may need to restructure or things like that, but really approaching it in a way that allows you to simultaneously to affect the culture, but the systems that's within the culture, so that you can really have that impactful change and know that how I solve it at basis is not how another organization can solve it, because the culture and the systems are different. You can even be in the same industry, but you can't buy it off the shelf. And it really is about the people in your organization, and really acknowledging them and their support is how real change happen and how you really move the needle around this work.
I think
It's
that
not
is
easy.
it's
And it is, as happy as I may sound, it's not easy. And there you get no's, but I think if I say that DE&I is revolutionary work over an evolutionary time. So it's always just keep at it.
keep at it. I think that's a great call to action to end our conversation. Lois, thank you so much for being on Reimagining Company Culture this afternoon.
Thank you.
Of course, and as a reminder for folks who are listening, at AllVoices, we really believe in employees and employers being seen, heard, and understood, and know it's a requirement for the business to succeed overall. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.